Being promiscuous isn't empowering. I know this goes against a lot of what we're taught in today's world, especially for younger people. We're kind of told that nowadays you can sleep around and have the fun you want as long as you are completely being authentic and you're being honest and you're basically being non-judgmental towards yourself and other people. But as much as I'd like to believe that being promiscuous is something that we can get away with and basically live life to the fullest, I have learned over time that promiscuity has a lot of negative side effects that end up hurting us far more than the small moments of pleasure that we have from being promiscuous. And with that, I've learned that it's not worth it. It's not an empowering thing because it actually hurts us so much. So, one interesting thing about being promiscuous is a lot of people think that they can balance having that many sexual partners in their life, and it's really difficult to do. I don't believe most people are capable of it because one thing we fail to understand is that sex is a very intimate thing. Now, some people can view it in a non-intimate way, but that actually doesn't fully get rid of the intimacy behind it. It doesn't fully trick our brain into believing that it's an act that has no meaning. Because no matter how you approach sex, it's basically two people opening up their bodies to each other. And there is something deep about that. There's something that affects us psychologically, even if we don't realize it. And the more that you do that with random people that you will never see again and that you don't even care to see again, it starts to take a toll on your psyche. And I just don't believe most people are capable of working through that without getting negative side effects. Some people are, don't get me wrong, there will always be outliers, but they're pretty much outliers. Most people will start to get affected by this over time. In fact, there have been some psychological studies done that the more sexual partners someone has, it makes it harder for them to commit to someone. Because I can't remember exactly what they were saying about how it kind of affects us psychologically, especially it affects our brain to some degree, but there's something about it that makes it harder for people who have had a lot of sexual partners to end up choosing one person to commit to them for life. It makes it hard for them to make that monogamous commitment. It's, in some ways, I've seen it described as it's kind of like it destroys that part of your brain that wants you to then choose somebody for life, and it makes it difficult for you to think in that way because you become so used to just freely giving yourself and that intimacy to random people. And like I said, especially in those cases where you're never going to see them again, that's even worse because then people just treat the act like it has no meaning. And I would love to believe that that's the case, but I just don't think many people are capable of acting in that way. And if you know that you're not, then you probably don't want to be promiscuous. I know that there are all sorts of sources out there right now saying that it's an empowering thing to do. I mean, there's the female empowerment movement, and then for men, there's the whole men going their own way movement, which kind of tells men to sleep around because it doesn't matter. And I think both of these sides are wrong in that extent because I just don't think most humans have it in them to be non-monogamous for that long, or to not quite that, but more so I just don't believe many of them are capable of having a ton of partners without getting some sort of issue out of it. And also, another interesting thing here is most people, for the most part, don't really have desires to be promiscuous anyway. I would say for a normal person, they don't have that desire. So quite often when someone wants to be promiscuous, and they believe that it's going to empower them, it usually is because that person is insecure in some way or they have some issues from their childhood that they need to work through. And that causes them to seek this attention and validation from other people in this intimate form of sex. And it's a very unhealthy thing. So, for the most part, most people don't really have this issue because a lot of people in that case don't have those insecurities or those issues from their childhood that would make them want to be promiscuous. And quite often the childhood thing is related to either not having a father figure or a mother figure in their life. It can be very detrimental for both men and women. And it's not one of those things where one gender comes out of that situation better off than the other, because both of them get heavily affected. Quite often when a, a woman is raised without a father figure, she ends up having trouble with that, and she'll be looking for a man who can kind of be that father figure to her. And then when you have this situation where a man is raised without a father figure, I knew some guys like that myself, they ended up being super promiscuous. It was almost to the point where they didn't know how to become super intimate with one woman. It's like they would meet great women, and I would tell my guy friends that. I'd say, dude, this woman is almost like marriage material. Don't mess it up with her. But they wouldn't know how to do that. They literally didn't have it in them anymore, because they didn't have a strong father figure in their life to teach them the strength and importance of being able to commit like that, and of being able to recognize great women, because these guys just couldn't do that. They couldn't commit to a woman in that degree. All they knew was short-term flings. They couldn't keep women for long-term, and it was very unfortunate. So this is just a more psychological video, but I know you don't have to take my word for it here. You don't have to believe me. If you want to be promiscuous and you think you can handle it, by all means, do so. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. It's just, I more so wanted to warn you about the negative side effects of this, and also the potential causes of it. Like I said, most people who engage in this behavior are insecure in some form, even if they're lying to themselves and believing that they are well enough to handle it. Most people probably are insecure in that regard, because for the most part, if somebody is healthy and fulfilled, they won't really see a need in being promiscuous, because they're not going to be needing that attention and validation from external places. They're going to be providing that for themselves. So yeah, anyway, I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but this is a bit more of a kind of adult topic, or even just controversial topic, but I felt like I needed to make a video on it, so here you go. Anyway, I hope it helped you in some form. I'll see you guys in the next video. Arrivederci!